Hello again. Right, so this is the second part to the previous one where I divided up the image of the teapot into the 16 separate cells. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to transpose the information from each of these cells onto my canvas panel, and as you can see I've divided it up also into 16 separate cells, and the way I did that is I just folded a sheet of A3 paper. This is A3 size, so A3 is twice A4, so you can see that's going to scale up nicely. Okay, so I just folded a sheet of A3 paper and ruled it as a template, okay, to make sure I get that completely right and exactly the same as I've done with my picture there. Okay, I did just use a pencil as well. It's important that you don't use a permanent pen to make your ruled lines on your canvas panel, and that will become obvious a bit later. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at my picture and I'm going to draw onto my canvas panel. I'm actually going to try and sketch this in. So I'm going to start at this the edge of the spout there, and it's actually in cell number 10, so corresponding cell on my picture there, just to make sure that I'm seeing it right. This is where it sort of comes into its own, this technique, because as long as you're keeping to the numbered cells, you can't really go too far wrong. So I'm just making a judgment here as to, I'm doing it fairly freehand, and it's, this part of it takes quite a while to do, to be honest with you, because of its kind of freehand nature. It takes a little bit of time to get it right. And what I'm also doing is I'm looking at each cell and I'm looking at the negative space within each cell to help me draw the actual positive shape, if that makes sense. Once you start to do this yourself, it should fall into place. So I'm just gonna, it's probably going to take me far too long to do this in the time. I only really get 5 or 6 minutes to do a video before it gets too difficult for my phone to cope with, so I'll have to sort of speed it up a little bit, but sometimes that's better. I don't want it to be too laborious. Okay, I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to come down here. So each stage of this as well, you can see I've kind of gone a bit off there. You're sort of making judgments and modifications all the time, and that's why it's important to sketch with the pencil, because you can always correct and modify as you need to, as you go, I should say. It's just quite a simple way of just getting an image accurately drawn in. I mean, you can do it freehand as well. I mean, I've done plenty of things freehand, which is absolutely fine as well. It depends what you're doing, but you know, this just cuts out that prospect of the wonky pot or the wonky bottle, or you know, it's sometimes hard to see it properly when you're doing things freehand. Okay, so I'm only concerning myself at this stage with the big shape, so I'm not going to get too concerned about the detail. Not that there's a lot of detail on this particular image, but when you come to do it, it would just make sense and be far easier. And the table it's sitting on is just kind of just shy of that midline, right across there. So I can see wood grain in this and everything. I'm not going to worry about putting wood grain in and lights and darks and everything. I'm just going to give an impression of that ellipse at the top there, where the lid meets the rim of the teapot. There's a bit of detail there I'm not quite sure about, so I'm just going to sketch that in. So quite quickly you can see I've got an image down it that looks like a teapot, like this does, like the photograph. And it needs, you know, it does need a little bit of work to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign off. I'm going to check my drawing. And when I'm satisfied with it, I'll move it on to the next stage, and I'll do another demo. Okay, so I hope that's makes sense. I hope you can see it okay, and that you'll tune in and have a look at the next stage. Thanks very much.